Hi everyone, Jess here. Welcome to our AMA, 10,000 subscribers AMA. It's awesome to be here. I'm very excited to have hit this milestone, which is why I wanted to do this just little chat, casual AMA today and say hello and give the opportunity to stop by and ask me anything really that you would like to chat about. So I have a few questions that I've gotten from my Thriver Circle community over at thrivercircle.com. So I'm going to answer those as I go. But if you have any questions, please leave them in the chat. Now, if you're popping by and you've just found this, this is a subscriber only chat. So if you want to ask me questions in the chat, you need to be a subscriber to my channel. So make sure to just pop on over and subscribe. And within a minute, you should be able to ask me questions. So let's get started. I've got some questions here. Let's start with this one from Lissa. So she said, I'm in the process of rebranding. How disruptive is it to the Etsy algorithm if I add and remove a bunch of items? My plan was to add one new item per day for 10 days and then remove about 10 items the same way in reverse. Is there a better way to change out items? So there's a few different moving parts to the Etsy search algorithm. Your shop as a whole is part of the ranking, but then every individual product has its own rankings. It's called the listing quality score. So it ranks individually. Thank you, Lisa. So basically what I would do, as you said, I would add all of the new items and then just take out, you could just take all the old ones out in one fell swoop, really, because you don't want them there anymore. I wouldn't worry too much about, sort of drip feeding, taking them away, if you know what I mean. Back in the day, back about, gosh, it would have been like 10 years ago now, when I rebranded. Well, I didn't rebrand my shop. I cleaned up my shop. I had, I think, something like 450 items in my Etsy shop because I kept experimenting with new designs and new collections, but a lot of them just weren't selling. They weren't quite right. So I sort of culled like 2/3 of my shop in one hit. I just took a bunch of stuff out, like 250 items out of my shop in one hit. And honestly, it didn't really have any impact. Obviously, search has changed since then, but I wouldn't just leave things hanging around in there if you don't want them there, if they don't fit your shop anymore. I would just take them out. So yeah, welcome to all the new people. Please do pop in and ask me anything you'd like in the chat, anything about business, anything about life. This is meant to be a bit more casual today. All of the stuff I talk about on my channel, I talk a lot about handmade business. I talk a lot about Etsy, but I also like to talk about how to have a happy and healthy life. So anything you'd like to ask me in that vein is absolutely fine as well. So that was one question from Alyssa. And I've got a few other ones here. Let's see. Here's a little simple one that I've gotten a couple of times in different ways. So I'm going to answer it today. It's to do with shop name and moving from country to country. So this one is, do you know if I can open an Etsy shop in one country, then I choose to open one in another country, would I be able to use the same name? Let's start with this question of names on Etsy. You can only use a name for an Etsy shop once, ever. So if you open an Etsy shop with a name, you can never reuse that name again. Nobody else can use it either. So it can only be used once. If you move countries and you want to change all of your bank details and your residency details, I believe you may have to open another shop. I'm not 100% sure on that. I'd have to check in the Etsy policies, but you wouldn't be able to close the shop you have, reopen with all of that new stuff with the same name. That is not possible. What you hopefully can do just in the back end is just change your bank details and stuff like that, but keep the same shop. But don't quote me on that 100%. I'm not sure about that. But this person has also asked about, if I live in Canada and want to sell in the USA, should I create my online store as if I lived in the USA? No, I wouldn't do that. Create it where you are. Keep it simple. Don't mess around with that sort of thing, because you might have banking issues and stuff like that. So, and I don't even know if it's possible. I guess you could set your addresses if you're in a different country, but I wouldn't do that personally. Tell me into the chat, say hello, let me know where you are in the world. I would love to know where you are and what time it is. It is currently 9 a.m. on Wednesday morning here in the Sunshine Coast of Australia. And it's sunny but with rain clouds. So we'll have some sun showers maybe. Okay, here's another great one. It's another Etsy question. Hi, I'm a newbie Etsy seller. What do most sellers do with holiday-specific listings after the holiday? Do they deactivate them or just leave them? Good question. Some people leave them. I guess it depends on the listing. We've got Lisa's 5 p.m. in the East Coast, USA. Fantastic. You could just leave them or you could deactivate them. Some people will deactivate them and then just reactivate them in like September. And that's absolutely fine. Like if they're really like Christmas specific stuff, then yeah, just deactivate it to clean up your shop for the rest of the year. If you don't think people are going to be buying Christmas themed things from you for the rest of the year, yeah, just do that. And then you can just delete them because you can just bring them back again. Hello, Lizzie from Utah. I've never been to Utah. I've been to most of the East Coast, actually. I think all of the East Coast of the US. No, not the East Coast, the West Coast. I've been to the whole of the West Coast of the US, right up the top, right down to, well, I went across the border into Tijuana, so I guess I would have driven sort of past San Diego. It was over there though. But I've only been to the West Coast, and then I've been to New York on the East Coast. Okay, Ghostworld Gaming. How do I sync my Etsy shop to Spotify? There is at least one piece of software I'm aware of. It's called Vela, V-E-L-A. That does allow you to sync your Etsy and Shopify shops so that when you go into Vela and you change things in there and it pushes it out to both Etsy and Shopify. I do have a video on my channel where I talk about Vela from about a year and a half ago. It was free. It's now a paid service. So you have to pay a monthly fee to be able to use it. But if you do have a very big and busy Etsy and Shopify shop. Lisa, you're here. I just answered some of your questions. If you do have a very busy Etsy and Shopify shop with lots of stuff and you're changing things regularly, it might be worth the cost so that you don't have to go in and spend time doing it in both places. So yeah, check Vela out. There you go. Nick is here in the chat, by the way, everybody. That's my husband who works with me in the business. So he has just given you a link to that there. Corinne, oh, thank you so much. Another Queenslander. Yay. It's really funny, actually, because here's some insider knowledge. I would say approximately 85 to 90% of my viewers here on YouTube are from the US. So there is a small amount of Australians and then people from other countries as well. But most of you who find and watch my videos are from the US, which is funny. Oh, Lisa. Okay, Lisa has a question about what Nick used to do. He was in IT. So he actually he's done a few different jobs, but he ran like the IT for a huge multinational manufacturing company in their like in the manufacturing area of things, like keeping all the robots going and making sure everything was working smoothly. So that's what he did previous to working for me. He was not a jeweler at all. Well, neither was I. So it was funny. If you've never heard our story, I do have a video on my channel from about a year ago where I kind of tell how this all happened, how I got into making jewelry, how I got into teaching craft business stuff, because it is not what I thought I'd be doing with my life at all, but I love it. And so I talk a bit about about our history and sort of how we met and how it all happened in that video. But yeah, so when Nick was first over here, he was on a tourist visa and he couldn't work. And then when we got married, we were going to go traveling. Long story short, just couldn't go straight away. So I was working on the business. He started to do little bits and pieces. And yeah, he just sort of picked up little bits and pieces of the business from me as time went on until we were both kind of working in there. And then I taught him some jewelry making, and yeah, he makes all of our rings. So if you ever buy a ring from us, Nick has probably made it. If you buy earrings or necklaces or anything else, I would have made it. So that's generally how it works in the jewelry studio. Yes, we are a 2 gig family. Nick's a huge gamer. I'm an occasional gamer. I'm more of a novel reader myself, so I spend most of my evenings reading fiction, and he spends his evenings gaming often. So yeah. Kat, we've got Kat. Hello, Kat. Lovely to see you here today. Another Australian. A few Thriver Circle members here too. It's lovely to see you all here. All right, so yeah, keep asking me questions. I'll keep answering some of the other ones that I've collected as well. Oh, Alyssa, this is a good one. How do you avoid becoming a couch potato working from home? You know, it's funny, I have a massive list of topic ideas for YouTube videos, and I do have something in there about how to not become a couch potato when you work from home. I probably should make that video. It was something I had to learn. So in the first year full time, I was working too much. I was basically working from the moment I got up to the moment I went to bed, practically 7 days a week. And I don't recommend that. It's not healthy. But I have a tendency to get a little bit obsessive about things. So when I really get into something, I really get into it. So I was really into it. And I gained a lot of weight because I was just sitting all day. I'd gone from having my previous job, I was on my feet for hours every day in a teaching role. So I was walking around constantly, I was commuting, all that sort of stuff, to sitting in front of a computer or a jewelry bench for like 16 hours a day. So I gained a lot of weight, and I had kind of a bit of a, what's the word? Burnout, I guess is the word. And I realized, wow, I need to start taking care of myself. So I slowly but surely changed my habits and this took a lot of time, and it took many years to get to the point, and I'm always experimenting with it. But a couple of things for me, at first, having like a Fitbit helped me. I barely use this now except for as a clock, but in the beginning, you know, because you can set it to buzz at you every hour to get up and move and things like that, because if you get in the zone, you forget. Having an external tool like that can be helpful. I go for a walk almost every day, and that's become a habit now. So at the end, like usually either before or after dinner, depending on the time of year, I'll go for like a 45-minute, 1 hour walk every day. I usually listen to podcasts. There's lots of interesting podcasts out there that I listen to while I'm walking, stuff on health and fitness, stuff on business, occasionally a few other bits and pieces. And I do other physical activity that I love. And this was the key for me, was finding stuff I enjoy doing. I think that's really what makes a difference. Forcing yourself to do something you don't enjoy won't last. So I had to find exercise and physical activity that I enjoyed. So I like to swim, especially ocean swimming. So Nick and I both are ocean swimmers. We try to do that somewhat regularly. I like strength training. I found a YouTube fitness trainer that I really, really like. So I watch and use her videos. Her name's Carolyn Gervin. And I've been doing her workouts for a long time now, a year and a half or so. And I do my own, like I know enough about strength training now that I do my own workouts as well sometimes. So yeah, for me, it was realizing also the mental health impacts. And I have another video on my channel where I talk about how I overcame chronic anxiety. A big part of that for me was learning how exercise creates good biochemistry in your brain and makes you happier and makes you healthier. So when I discovered that and sort of tested it for myself and realized how important exercise was for me, if I don't exercise pretty much daily, my mental health starts to suffer. So those all things that kind of all came together to change my habits. And that's what it's about at the end of the day, isn't it? You've got to change your habits so that you are bringing those healthy habits into your life. Because yeah, when you work at home, like I could literally not leave the house for a week at a time if I didn't have, you know, these things that got me out of the house, you know, like going for a walk, going swimming, socializing with friends. You know, I've made an effort to make new friends and to join in activities outside the home, so I'm not just like here with Nick and the cats and not talking to another human being for weeks on end. Because as much as I'm an introvert, we need socialization and social interaction to be happy. So long story short, but hopefully that was helpful. What do we got next here? Goatswell Gaming. How do you come up with content ideas? Lots of ways. So I do this thing every year where I take myself away for a planning retreat, and I do that around November every year. And I sit down and I basically come up with a year's worth of content for my YouTube channel in that time. And it's not as hard as it sounds, because basically what I do is throughout the rest of the year, I'm just collecting ideas all the time. So I have a Trello board that is, content ideas. And every time, maybe I'm falling asleep, maybe I'm walking, maybe I'm answering a question from a Thriver Circle member or a YouTube commentator, maybe I am reading a Facebook group, whatever it might be. If an idea for content pops in my head, I will just write it on a Trello board and collect those ideas. And sometimes I'll use them throughout the year, but otherwise they'll just sit there and I'll have a massive list of ideas. And then what I do is I like branch ideas. So you have a larger content idea, and then I'll be like, how can I take smaller, how can I break this down into smaller segments and actually grab those smaller things and turn them into content, whether it's a YouTube video or an Instagram post or something like that. And also, so I get a lot of ideas from my own experience as well, obviously, because I run a handmade business. So I'm experiencing the things that other people are experiencing. I'm going through those challenges. I've been doing it for 14, 15 years now. And there's still always challenges. Things are always changing. The economy this year is going to be a big challenge. Lots of people are struggling to pay just their everyday bills. So their money for stuff like jewelry is not going to be there. So I'm anticipating personally that we'll have lower sales this year because of that. But at the same time, I'm like, well, there are still people out there who can afford my stuff. How can I reach them? How can I improve my business? So running a business, you've never got it all figured out, and there's always ideas and always challenges and always struggles that come up. So I can mine my own experience for content as well. So there's heaps of different ways that kind of content does come to you. And but having some sort of capture system, I think, is the most important thing, so that when you do have an idea, it doesn't disappear out of your head. So we've pretty much always got, I don't have my phone, I've left it in the bedroom this morning, but we pretty much always have our devices on us. So having an app on there, whether, it could be just Google Keep or something, but I like Trello because then I have boards, and I can have one for each month as well. I have a list for each month, like January, February, March, April, and I can rearrange stuff really easily in there and plan my content. So I have basically my year's content planned at the beginning of the year, but it changes. That's just like, I just like to have a plan. I feel more comfortable when I have a plan. I can relax. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to run out of content ideas tomorrow, but that plan is always changing and shifting depending on, having new ideas, new questions coming up, things Etsy might be doing that I need to do a video about or whatever. So there's, lots of other things there as well. Okay, so Maggie. Hello, Maggie. I'm just starting my business literally yesterday. Congratulations. I created my website. Help, lol, just kidding. Where and how do I connect with other local crafters? Okay, so that's a really good question. You should look for, if your town or city has an Etsy team. If you're on Etsy, that's a nice place to start. Look for craft guilds. If there are craft guilds in your area, it depends on what you make. There might not be a guild for what you make. Go to local markets and just chat to the people there and get to know them. That's another way to connect. And, ask them. Look at your local, I don't know where you are in the world, but like here in Australia, you might go to the local CWA or something like that. If it's a craft that is in that sphere, you might look at local Facebook groups. So look for Facebook groups in your local area that are about that. Again, if there are any markets, like craft markets or handmade markets in your area, connecting through that. Like if they have a Facebook group or an Instagram page, follow them and interact, and you might be able to connect with other people. Okay, in those areas, yeah. So those are all ways you can find local communities, because they will be out there. So it's a nice thing to do. Like when I started my first few years, my local Etsy team was absolutely invaluable to me. Actually, there were two. There was an Australian one and there was a Brisbane one called Brisstyle, which is still around now, but it's much more than just an Etsy team. I was actually the vice president of that for a while. I was really involved in that organization in the early days, and it was really great because you got that sense of community. You learnt a lot from each other. You got that sense of support. And the online Australian team was also great in the beginning. I learnt so much from those people in that community. These days, people tend to have like Facebook groups and things like that. But also, that's one of the reasons I started the Thriver Circle when I did back in 2015, because it can be really isolating to work from home as a creative if you don't have a community around you, or especially if you live in an area where there isn't a lot of local community around you. So finding an online community. And the nice thing about something like a membership community is that it's private. It's it's not just a random open Facebook group where you get all the trolls and all the negative people and, the people who go, oh, Etsy's horrible, blah, blah, blah. Yes, it has its issues, but if we want to solve, our problems and be there, then that's our choice to be there. And we want people who are going to support us in that. So yeah, finding those sorts of communities is really helpful. And I urge anybody watching this, if you don't have some sort of crafting creative community that you are part of, where you can get to know actual people, not just like huge random anonymous groups, but get to know actual real people who you can learn from, who can mentor you, who you can bounce ideas off, who you can commiserate with, of course, as well, is really, really important, especially in the early days when you are just learning and you are unsure about things and what you need to do and what you don't need to do necessarily. Definitely find a community like that. You can always join mine, of course, but there are plenty of other options out there in the world. And if you are curious about the Thriver Circle, it's thrivercircle.com to find out more about that. The community is just part of it. Of course, I also have a year-long course called Your Year to Thrive in there, which teaches you everything you need to know to start and grow a thriving and profitable handmade business, as well as we do monthly live calls, kind of like this, but private, and you actually come on the screen and talk to me. And then we have monthly workshops, live workshops in there as well. So it's if you ever wanted to work with me directly, that's the way to do it. Okay, any more questions, lovely people? Pop them in the chat now. I'll head back over here to some of these other ones. What have we got here? Oh, we've got one from Corinne. Wonderful. Hi, Jess. I've always wondered if you believe there is a sweet spot when it comes to the number of listings that you should have in a jewelry store on Etsy. There is no, as far as I am aware, and in my personal opinion, there is no magic number. However, that being said, there are a few general guidelines I generally recommend. First guideline, have a full front page if you can. So that first, now this is a little bit different these days because if you look at the stats, the majority of people on Etsy are actually shopping on the app. They're actually shopping on their mobile rather than on a computer. So it's not so important anymore that it looks like you have a full shop from the desktop. However, I still personally like that. I think it looks nice. Plus, it just gives you a number to shoot for, right? So having, I think it's 25 items on the front page. So having that number to shoot for. What you really want to focus on is having quality products that are well photographed. You have good SEO. The more products you have, the more chances you have to show up in search. That's something to think about as well. Okay, so the more products you can create, the more chances to show up in search. This is one reason why when people have products with variations, so say you have a product that has 5 different colors, I will always say list that in your shop 5 times with that different main color on each listing, and then have all the other variations within those listings. The reason I say that is because it gives you, and obviously change up the SEO. Don't have all identical titles and tags and stuff on those 5 listings. Yes, there'll be a lot of commonality, but try to change it up a little bit. The reason I say that is because it gives you more chances to be seen in search, but it also improves the chance someone will click through, because if someone's looking for a pair of yellow earrings and they see a pair of earrings they like but they're green, they're just going to scroll on past them. Whereas if they see that version of earring in yellow, they're going to be like, oh yeah, that was what I was looking for, and they're likely to click through. Because remember, when people are looking in search, they don't see that you have variations in different colors of that option. So that's why I'm saying to do that. So yeah, I would say aim for as many products as you can comfortably do. But also on the flip side of that, you don't want to have hundreds and hundreds of products that are a mishmash or irrelevant. And if you were here in the beginning, I talked about how I used to have like 450 products and I culled a lot of them many, many years ago. I actually found that my sales improved after I did that, because I improved the branding of my shop. So I made everything much more similar, much more on brand, much more appealing to that particular target customer who's coming along to buy minimalist sterling silver jewelry. Excuse me. So yeah, don't just chuck things in there for the sake of having more listings. Don't ever do that. Only put stuff in there that fits with your shop and that is going to, appeal to your target audience or your ideal customer. You'll hear a lot of people throw around like numbers like, 100 listings or whatever. I really don't think it matters at the end of the day. People have successful shops with 5 listings. People have successful shops with 500 listings. It really just comes down to all the other things. If you haven't already watched, I did a video, was it last week or the week before? I think it was last week's video, where I talked about, I actually showed you a few really successful shops and talked about why they are doing so well. That's always a good one to watch, because I kind of go into what they have in common. They're all very different. They have very different vibes. They have very different target customers. They all have very different products, but they all have the same core things that they are doing right. So yeah, go check that one out. Are there workbooks for business owners that are crafters? Do you mean in my membership or do you mean in general? In my membership, just to answer that, if that is your question, I don't have workbooks per se, so I have workshops. So there are live video workshops in general. Okay. I'm trying to think. I mean, there are plenty of ebooks out there. Nick's just found the video. Thank you, Nick. So there are plenty of workbooks from numerous other teachers out there. I don't have any available at the moment. I have excuse me, I have 2 written courses. Well, actually, I have 3 written courses. So my Setup Shop course, which is a 30-day intensive course, those are all written lessons with activities for you to complete at the end of each lesson. That is a live course. It's running again in, just looking at my calendar, in mid-April this year. I'm running Setup Shop again. So if you're just a beginner, that is an excellent course to take to set up an online shop. That is what it's all about, is getting your online shop set up and running. My Your Year to Thrive course that I mentioned earlier is a year-long course, 1 lesson a week for 52 weeks. Every single one has, again, an activity for you to do at the end of each one. You have a lesson, you have work to do, homework, you might say, at the end of each one. I also have a wholesale course, which is available over at createandthrive.com. And that is, if you're ever interested in wholesale, I have all of that. Yeah, I can't name off the top of my head other workbooks. I know there are, like, my friend Deb from Tizit. She has a bunch of stuff in her membership. There's May from Creative Hive. She has a bunch of stuff again in her membership. I'm not sure if she sells separate workbooks, but there's a lot of out there trying to help people like you guys to be successful. So I guess what I would say about that is find the teacher that resonates with you. If that's me, great. If that's someone else, fantastic. Just find someone who you can trust and who makes sense to you, that you can learn from and go from there and look at what they offer. Okay. Thank you, Maggie. Thank you for watching. And Corinne, I'm glad you have you found that answer helpful. Thank you. I am having a great day. I hope you are too. Did I answer that question? Yes, I did. I've still got some time, lovely people. So if you have more questions, pop them in the chat. As I said, anything about business or life or me in general, if you're curious. I think Lisa had another one here, so I'll answer that one. Lisa, that you left over in the Thriver Circle. On how many boards should a Pinterest pin be pinned? I feel like that should be one of those Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers sort of things. I've been pinning one pin each day onto my own 10 boards and a couple of group boards. Is that overkill? Also, when you use a program like Later, how many boards does it pin to? Okay, so let's answer the first part of this question. So as far as I'm aware, and I haven't looked into Pinterest updates for a few months, so this may have changed, but the last I was aware, Pinterest likes fresh pins now rather than repins. So what that means is it's going to prioritize new pins that you add to Pinterest rather than repinning stuff you already have. So I wouldn't spend much time repinning things anymore. I would spend more time pinning new things these days. Pinning to group boards can be useful simply because then you're getting your stuff in front of people who are part of that group board. So that is still a good strategy as far as I'm aware. I wouldn't worry about it too much. Just do what's sustainable. So if pinning one pin a day is sustainable, then do that. That's great. And just, pin to your own board. You don't need to pin the same pin to heaps of different boards either. So pin it to one board and leave it for a while and then come back to it like in a month and pin it to another board. That would be my opinion. But if you want to find out the latest about Pinterest stuff, I'm trying to think. There's Kate All from Simple Pin Media. They often release stuff about Pinterest updates. So that might be a person to look into. The second part, when you use a program like Later, how many boards does it pin to? I think you just choose one board. I have to admit it's been a while since I've used Later, so I can't remember off the top of my head. But I'm pretty sure you choose one board to pin to. Yeah. Ghostwell Gaming again. What do you consider was the key to your Etsy success? Oh, that's a very good question. And I think it's almost impossible to pin down one thing. I think it's a constellation of things. Patience is definitely a big one. Being in it for the long haul is definitely a big one. Knowing that it takes time. Like you'll see even here on YouTube, there's a big influx of YouTubers who are doing the whole Etsy digital product thing at the moment. So they're selling digital products or stickers or print on demand or whatever. And those videos are quite popular because there's a lot of people who think, oh, this is something I can do easily and quickly, and I can make heaps of money without any effort. That's not true. You still have to put effort and work in to learn how the system functions. You still have to create the products. You still have to do the customer service. You still have to learn about, photography or imaging and SEO and all those sorts of things. So there's always going to be a learning curve. You just, if you do those sorts of things, you don't have to make the products, which does save you, as in physically make the products, which does save you a lot of time. I definitely think it was easier when I started because there was a hell of a lot less people on Etsy. The pandemic definitely made a big difference because I know on Etsy, the numbers of people skyrocketed, the number of sellers, I think it went up like 4 times as much or something like that. So there's a lot more competition on the platform now than there was previously. But that being said, the fundamentals still ring true. Okay, if you want to be competitive on the Etsy platform, you just have to have the fundamentals and you have to keep up with changes as well. So fundamentals being excellent images and photography, really good SEO, good solid descriptions, excellent customer service, a well-branded shop. All of those things are very important. Now, that's to succeed within the Etsy ecosystem itself. And then there's, of course, external stuff. Are you going to drive your own traffic? Are you going to have a social channel, a YouTube channel, an Instagram, a TikTok, whatever, to drive traffic to your business? You have to spend either money or time to promote your business and market your business. You could spend the time to really learn the Etsy algorithm and really try to succeed on that platform. You could spend the time on social media to really succeed on those platforms and drive traffic that way. You could spend money on Etsy advertising, on external advertising to drive traffic, but you have to do something in order to get people to your business. And yeah, have excellent customer service and an excellent, well-branded shop. And those things are necessary to success. They're not necessarily sufficient for success, but they are necessary for sure. Lisa, Lisa just said many more people buying on Etsy now than 10 years ago? Absolutely. There's a huge increase also of customers. So, but from memory, and it's been a few months since I looked at these numbers, the number of sellers has increased more than the number of buyers. But they have, both of those things have definitely increased over time. If you're curious about these numbers, by the way, everyone, the way to find it is to just Google Etsy investor information. Etsy's a publicly listed company. They have to disclose all of this sort of stuff. So they have an investor hub where you can go download the latest investor reports, and that is where they talk about all of these numbers, and you can see the growth. You can see the growth in sellers, in buyers, in profit, in ad spend, and all of those sorts of things. So it's not secret. You just have to know where to find that information. So to go back to Goatswell Gaming's question, patience, persistence, those things are important. You can't go into having a business. And this is why I like to say, I think a lot of people have this idea in their head that they are going to open an Etsy shop. No, you're starting a business. Etsy just happens to be the venue via which you are selling your items. If you think about your business that way, it's a fundamental shift in your perspective, okay? Because then you think about, okay, what does it take to start and run and grow a business? And that's what you're doing. And if you look to the real world, the world outside the internet, it takes time, it takes effort, it takes learning a lot of things, it takes being in it for the long haul to succeed. The businesses that succeed are committed to, 5, 10 years, whatever, being in it for the long term. If you're just looking for kind of a quick buck or a quick fix, then you're probably going to give up too soon and not succeed. Like most things in life, if you give up too soon, you probably won't succeed, because the people who are making heaps of money quickly, what you don't necessarily see is that those people already have a background in business. They have a background in design. They have a background in finance, whatever it might be. They've learned a lot of lessons, and they're just applying what they already know to a different venue. A background in marketing, whatever it might be. So if you're starting from the very beginning, you don't have a business background, then you need time to learn. So be patient with yourself. Carolyn, do you use a PO box for returns? Yes, I have a PO box for my business, and I recommend everybody get a PO box or equivalent for their business address. So that's my business address. Nobody sees my home address. I keep that private. So all of my business, everything, all of my return labels on my parcels, it's all PO box. So that's a good thing to do. I did that right in the beginning, and I recommend it. Laura, where is the best place to help with SEO and get suggestions for wording? Okay, there's lots of options. Obviously, I have a bunch of stuff on my channel. There's also Cara Bunton. She has a great YouTube channel. When it comes to software, there is Allura, there is Marmalade, there is eRank, there is Sales Samurai. I did a video a while back where I talked about, did I talk about all of those? I think so, like a whole bunch of the different keyword research tools out there. If you haven't tried ChatGPT, I'm going to be doing a video soon about how you can use ChatGPT to help you with your Etsy shop. You can literally go to it and say, I've made this product. What might be some suggested keywords for it? And it'll give you a whole bunch of suggestions. Then there is just Google keyword research as well. That is a good place to go to look at, so if you just search in Google, like Google keyword research, I think it's part of their AdSense, or it was, I don't know if it still is, part of their AdSense platform, that you can then go in and look at and use that to find new keywords. There is another trick, a really simple one, if you're not already using it, is just to go to Etsy, go to the search bar and start typing in what you make and see what the suggested searches are. See what it actually pops up as suggested searches, because you're going to find keywords in there as well. That's a good one. That's actually one way that I find like title ideas or content ideas on YouTube, is that I go to the YouTube search and I start typing in something that I might be thinking about doing a video on, and I see what other suggested searches pop up that are related to that. So that's a nice little trick as well. Yeah, Liz has just said I second Cara Bunton. She's great. She's down to earth. I think she has a similar vibe to me, like no nonsense, down to earth. Just here's the information. All right. All right, Ghost World. What are your essential apps for email marketing, social media planning, point of sale, etc.? Good question. So, email marketing, I have a couple of suggestions. I use 3 different ones just because of how my email ecosystem has developed over the years. I wouldn't recommend it, but for makers, if you are a maker, I recommend MailerLite. It is just very simple. If you don't have any background using email marketing software, it's very simple. It's very intuitive. You can make your emails look really pretty. So MailerLite is a really nice one for that. If you want Etsy integration with your emails, I just did a video the week before last on how you can use Allura. They have a way to integrate with your Etsy automated emails and actually brand and design those, and then have a subscriber have a way there to collect emails. Also, Aweber has that as well. So those 2 platforms integrate with Etsy, and you can actually encourage your Etsy customers to subscribe to a mailing list. So if Etsy you're talking about, that might be good. I also use ConvertKit. That is what I use for all my Create and Thrive emails. So if you are subscribed to my Create and Thrive mailing list, then yeah, that is one there that you could use as well. I like ConvertKit. It's actually it's been updated as well, so you can put images and stuff in there, but it's nowhere near as lovely to make visually appealing emails as MailerLite is. So if you want to make visually appealing emails, then yeah, MailerLite would be the way to go. Social media planning. Nick's bringing all the links. Thanks, mate. So basically, I use Trello. That's my main planning tool. So my planning system, I have a wall calendar, I have a diary, which is my day-to-day. But for bigger planning and long-term planning and capturing of ideas, I use Trello. That is what I've used for years. I really like it. Some people, there's other ones out there like Asana and things like that, which are similar. I've never used that though, so I'm not familiar with it. But yeah, Trello is very integral part of my business, of the planning part of my business. It's very, very useful. Point of sale, I don't do in-person stuff, so that's not really relevant to me. I would probably use Square though if I was going to. What other essential apps? So in the description underneath all of my videos, at least all of the ones from the last year or so, I have a tools section. So if you look down there, I have links to all of my favorite tools. So go check those out. A lot of them are affiliate links because I'm part of affiliate programs, but they are all things I have personally used or use, or that I strongly recommend. I don't think there's anything on there I don't use. Maybe there's a course I haven't taken, but I know enough about it that I'm confident in recommending it. So yeah, so check that out in the description below most of my latest videos, and probably this one as well. And also in my weekly emails, I usually recommend a tool each week in those emails as well. Okay, we have 15 more minutes. If anybody has more questions for me, please put them in the chat now. I'll just check and see if I have any more questions in my list here from previously. Carolyn, insurance for your business. So there are a number of different insurances you might want to consider for your business. So one is house contents insurance. We have like a business add-on to our home insurance because we run our business from home. We have all of our tools and our supplies at home, and that stuff might not necessarily be covered under our normal policy. So we have a business addendum to that. You might want to consider, depending on your business, personal liability, public liability. So public liability is pretty much a no-brainer if you ever do markets or any sort of events, or if you have customers come to your home on a regular basis, then public liability is a good idea because it protects, from somebody having an issue with your stuff. There's also, I think what's it called? Is it like personal indemnity insurance or something, where you basically insure yourself against any issues? So yeah, that's another one you might want to consider. Here in Australia, Craft Victoria has a good insurance program, as far as I know. I would also just talk to your current insurance company and see if they have anything, or talk to an insurance broker who might be able to help you find the right insurance, because that might be a little bit unusual depending on how you run your business. But if you do like skincare stuff or food or like children's stuff, products that are potential to actually injure somebody or cause somebody issues, then I think it's probably a good idea to consider having some form of those insurances. Another thing to consider is incorporating your business. So instead of being what's here in Australia is called a sole trader, so my business is indistinguishable from me. Like, my name is my business name, and then I have trading names that I trade under, but my business entity and me are the same thing. Whereas if you get a company, that is another way to protect yourself somewhat, because the company is what's liable, not you as an individual. So depending on your location, your country, that might be something to consider as well. It will affect your tax as well. So like here, companies are taxed differently to people. Okay. Listen, newbie Pinterest question. How does Pinterest know about my pin if I just pin it to my one board? Well, as soon as you put a pin on Pinterest, so think of Pinterest as a search engine. That's what it really is. Okay. It's not a social media so much as it's a search engine. So as soon as you pin something to Pinterest, it enters the Pinterest ecosystem, the AI, the search system on Pinterest will see it, and it will index it, and it will then show it to the right people. So if people search for that, whatever it is you've pinned, it will show up in search for them, hopefully. Again, depending on recency and relevancy and all those sorts of things. So yeah, you don't need to like put it in numerous other places for it to show up for people in search. Once it's on the platform, it will show up to people who are looking for it, no matter what board you have pinned it to. So back when Pinterest first started, who you followed, you saw pins from people you followed. That's how Pinterest used to work. Now you see pins, yes, from people you follow, but more so Pinterest shows you stuff that it thinks you'll be interested in, depending on what you have previously searched for, what you have clicked on, etc. So it's much cleverer now about what it shows people. What do you recommend to budget for budgeting on a tight budget? I'm just trying to pass the question. What do you recommend? Do you mean like software, or what do you recommend that you budget for? As in, what should you spend your money on? And then I will answer the question. I mean, I can answer both of those questions. What would you budget for? Okay. So I would, again, with the fundamentals, make sure you can cover the fundamentals. So if you're starting an Etsy shop, for example, you just need to have the budget for your listings, so to list stuff, right? And you need to have a good camera. Now, that might just be your phone. If you have a good phone, you have a good camera these days. So you don't need to go out and buy a fancy camera or anything like that. I would, again, this is like from the beginning of things, make sure obviously that you're using quality. If you're making physical products, you want to be using quality materials. You want to buy good quality packaging to post these things in so that your stuff is protected, it looks good. But at the same time, you can do that in a budget way. Like, for example, we don't have like, I do have proper business cards, but I don't put them in envelopes. What we do is we have a little graphic that we print onto nice white paper, and then we cut it up so we cut it into 4, and we then write on that and we put that in our parcel. So for us, that's more cost effective than like buying from a printing company, like thick cardstock sort of pre-printed stuff. And it gives us the ability to change it up whenever we want as well, and not have a whole bunch of old stuff lying around. So keep it small. Don't go spending heaps of money on heaps of software. Don't go spending heaps of money on fancy, for cameras or lighting or anything like that. Like, you can get good effective lighting for photography for $30. I talk about this quite regularly, but these ones here, these softbox style lights, you can buy them on Amazon or eBay. You can buy a set of those for like, I'm pretty sure under $50, and they are awesome. Natural lighting is always your best friend as well. So when it comes to the ecosystem of running your business, again, start small. I'm trying to think of anything that would cost you money that you absolutely must have in the beginning. I can't really think of anything apart from your listing fees or, your website fees. Obviously, if you want to run a website, you need to pay somehow to have a website. So whatever that is, pick the right option for you. But like mailing lists, they generally will have a free level. A lot of SEO software and stuff, they have free trials you can try. So start simple. Don't spend a lot of money up front. Like Canva, for graphic design, brilliant. I used free Canva for like 10 years. I only just upgraded to paid Canva like last year. And that's just because I wanted the feature to be able to remove backgrounds. That was the only reason. But it's very useful for my YouTube thumbnails and stuff like that. So yeah, don't spend money that you don't need to spend in the beginning. Just keep it thrifty. Do what you can at the beginning to learn just using free tools, free resources, YouTube. If you get to the point where you're stuck and you want help, like a course or something might be a good investment, simply because it will save you a lot of time. If you have a particular problem you're trying to solve, like that's why I have my Setup Shop course. If you have a particular problem, which is how do I set up a really great shop quickly and do it right the first time, that's the problem that Setup Shop solves for you, that it might take you years to figure out all of the little bits and pieces otherwise. So, investing in education is probably one of the things I would suggest. Again, whether it's me, someone else, someone who's teaching you good skills and the right skills. And you can just invest time in that, of course, as well. There's plenty of free content from me on my channel, on my podcast, and other teachers out there as well. But yeah, keep it simple for the starters, and don't go into anything. I think people sometimes think that spending lots of money will make a big difference. And look, if you're going to spend money, I would spend it on targeted advertising. If you're trying to get traffic to your business, spend it on targeted advertising to get like boots, shoes through the door, people through the door. That is a really mixed metaphor. I don't know where my brain's going with that. But anyway, I've been talking for an hour, so I'm running out of brain power. So on Etsy, if you are on Etsy, spend a little bit of money on your Etsy ads, like the actual on-site ads. But do not do that until you have gotten the fundamentals in place. Good photos, good branding, good SEO. There's no point in spending money on driving traffic to subpar listings because people just won't buy them or they won't click on them anyway. So spend the time to get the fundamentals right first, then spend money sending people, spend money sending people to those listings or to that website or shop. Okay, 5 more minutes. I have time for another question. If anybody has anything final that you would like to ask, please get it in the chat now. And if weirdly you happen to be watching this in the last 5 minutes and you're like, I can't ask anything in the chat, it's because you need to be a subscriber to my channel in order to participate in the chat. So head on over, click the subscribe button, and within a minute you'll be able to ask me a question. And while I wait, I will again refer to my list over here. I think I've answered most things. This is a good one. I'll just start riffing on this until another question comes through, but I'm afraid if I charge too much, nobody will buy from me. There's a lot of competition in what I'm selling. This is an eternal problem. There is no easy answer to this, I'm sorry to say. If there was, every business would be successful and we'd all be wonderful. So you have to think about the market, yes, but first and foremost, you have to think about yourself. You have to price for profit, otherwise your business will not be profitable and it will not be sustainable and you will shut down. That is the fundamental truth about business, okay? So that means you cannot undercharge because there's no point. You're just working for nothing at that point. All right, so I have a video where I go through the pricing formula and I talk about the 2 parts of the pricing formula. So go watch that. I explain all of that in this video. But long story short, you have to cover all your costs. You have to make a profit. And if that means that you aren't competitive in your niche at that price, you need to change something. It might be what you're making. It might be where you're selling. It might be the customer you are targeting. I always use the example of like a handbag. You can go to Target and buy one for $10, or you can go to Gucci and buy one for $50,000. It's just a handbag. The only difference is the branding. Okay. The only difference is the target customer and what they're willing to spend. So you have to be sure that you are targeting the right customer that is willing to spend what you need to charge at the end of the day. Pricing video. Thank you, Nick. Okay, a few last questions here. Lisa, glad you've enjoyed it. Kat, what is the best kind of targeted advertising for a website? Do you rate Facebook ads highly? I think these days, for small businesses like us, Facebook/Instagram ads are a good option, probably the best option. Apart from Google AdSense, might be one to think about as well. If you want to get search traffic, then that might be something to consider. But especially for a handmade business that has nice visuals, take advantage of that and use visual advertising. So rather than, the text-based Google AdSense advertising, Facebook, Instagram, you can have nice visual-based advertising that will grab people's attention. And you can also target stuff very specifically, and you can set your budget very specifically. So go in, get to know Facebook Ads Manager, and then use those options. You could use Pinterest advertising as well, potentially. If you find you get a lot of traffic or that Pinterest is a good option for you, consider advertising on Pinterest as well. Again, those are the sorts of places I would look into advertising. Thank you for watching, Caroline. Go Swell Gaming, what things do you recommend having in your business office studio? I did a video about 6 months ago about this, where I talked about 5 home office hacks or something, like where I kind of went through 5 things that have improved my home office environment. So go have a look for that. Just search like home office on my channel and that'll come up. But ergonomic stuff is important because you are there a lot. Like I have an ergonomic mouse, looks weird, but I was getting wrist pain from having my hand this way all the time, whereas this one, you sit more naturally. It took a bit of getting used to, but it's one of the best little tweaks I made, and it wasn't that expensive. I have 2 monitors. That's really helpful as well. I have a comfortable chair. I have a lumbar support pillow so that I have good posture and I'm not sitting horribly. Down in the studio, we have like a ergonomic kneeling style chair at the bench. So, and I stand up a lot too down there. I know Nick does stand up to work a lot down there as well, because our jewelry bench is like higher. So you can work at it from that seated position, or you can work at it from standing as well. So yeah, all of those sorts of things. Oh, you found it, Nick. Thank you. Have been really useful for me. So those sorts of things to make you yourself more comfortable, to make it more sustainable long term when you are spending lots and lots of time at your computer are really useful. Fresh air, cool air, putting an air conditioner in. I live in, if you don't know where I am, Sunshine Coast, Queensland. We're in a subtropical environment. Working in summer was very hard sometimes because it would be very hot and very humid. And I don't think the human brain is optimized in those conditions. So having air conditioning during that time of the year is really useful. It helps you to focus better. And just all the basics, keeping hydrated. For those of you who drink caffeine, staying caffeinated might help you as well focus. But I don't, as you might know from a video on my channel. There's a cat. I think Teddy's trying to get into Nick's office at the moment. Oh, there he is. He wants attention. I don't know if you can hear him whinging. Probably can. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you so much for joining me today. This has been super fun. I've enjoyed this a lot. I'll do another one when I get to 20,000 subscribers. And of course, if you are, I know a lot of you are in the Thriver Circle, I'll see you in there on we've got a workshop next week it's an evening one. And that one is on how to successfully sell one-of-a-kind items online, which is very difficult to do, but I give you some tips on how to make that a bit easier. So thank you for watching. Just enrolled in this Teddy drama. What's he doing? Whinging. Wants to get in, wants to get out. The eternal problem of the closed door and a cat. They always want to be on the other side of it, don't they? So I will finish up now. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for subscribing to this channel. Thank you for those of you in the Thriver Circle for trusting me to help you grow your businesses. It's an honor and I love doing it to this day. I've been teaching makers for 10 years now. It's actually my 10th anniversary of starting Create and Thrive. It's my 10th anniversary of running Setup Shop. So I'll have to do something to celebrate that when I run Setup Shop in April. I might do some giveaways or some special bonuses for people who sign up for it. So look out for that as well. Make sure if you're not already subscribed to my email list, that's below, because I send out weekly emails with, what I'm publishing on YouTube, what's happening in the Thriver Circle, and recommendations where I recommend tools and things that will help you as well with your handmade business. Okay, I'm going to sign off there. I'll hopefully see you all around in my YouTube comments and the Thriver Circle. Thanks, guys. Bye.